I'm Bronwyn. I'm 27 years old, and I'm originally from Zimbabwe, but I've lived in several different countries growing up. And I studied my bachelor's in South Africa at the University of the Free State, and I did a bachelor's in communication science with specialization then in journalism. And yeah, then after my bachelor's, I sort of decided to take a bit of a break from studying, and then went to work in Thailand for a year. And through a very fortunate series of events, ended up here in Germany. After finishing my degree, I definitely I knew that I had an interest in communication. I knew I had an interest in psychology, sociology, sort of working with people. But I wasn't quite sure I wanted to be a journalist. It didn't feel like it was the right fit for me. And so I thought I would just take a bit of a break to figure things out. And I did as my minor English literature and linguistics. So I decided to go and teach at a girls' school in Thailand. And I was a homeroom teacher there for 30 crazy 10-year-old girls. And yeah, I spent a year there and then sort of decided, okay, well, I'd like to move on a bit with my life. And I very fortunately had met a German man who is now still my partner. And before that, I don't think I would have considered Germany. I actually was considering the Netherlands, but the heart wants what it wants. And so, yeah, then I moved to Germany and did a year of learning German. And then sort of halfway through thought, okay, I'd like to further develop my possibilities, further grow my horizon. And previously, I would have never thought about going into business really at all. But there was something just about the course that was offered at Frankfurt School that it seemed to me that it was something that was very open towards people who weren't necessarily like so business focused. Like you think of Frankfurt and you think it's the finance capital of Europe, very sort of finance focused, bank heavy, that sort of thing. And then the Masters in Management seemed very different. It seemed to sort of have a broader focus. And yeah, I actually, secret that I don't tell very many people, but I applied not thinking that I would get in. So it was sort of just a moonshot. And yeah, then I got in and yeah, been doing it now for 2 years. So yeah. Yeah, so that's the great thing I think about our program, is there's a massive range of backgrounds. I'm definitely one of the minority in terms of that I got a BA in communication. I think I only know 2 others in my entire thing that sort of worked in communication or focused on communications. You have this sort of really nice balance between people who have a business background, people who are sort of business minded and finance focused, and then people who come from hospitality or other places. You know, it's really great, and that sort of comes out a lot in the classes. So you get everybody's sort of input in, but I would say I'm definitely in the minority in that I have almost zero business experience. a lot of people coming in had some, but I have almost nothing. The way the program is designed is it's actually a non-consecutive master's. So really, it is set up in a way that anybody can succeed in it. And so for the first semester, you sort of do this crash course in business. And so people who have like a business background can waive some of the subjects, but it sort of gives you a rundown: finance, economics, marketing, accounting, everything just sort of thrown at you. And that was very hard for me, and I know for some of my classmates. It was a very, very intense semester, lots of tears, but it was doable. So it wasn't like it was absolutely impossible. And after that semester, I felt like then everybody was sort of on a very equal footing. So business background or not, everybody was going into sort of the second semester on the same level and with the same sort of capabilities. So that's the great part about it, is the first semester, as hard as it is, it really prepares you well for the rest of the masters. It basically means that you don't have to have studied business. You don't have to have a BSc even to study this master's. Basically, whatever your background, you can apply. You have to pass a test. Obviously, it's either GMAT or they have a Frankfurt School entry test, and they're pretty equally balanced, I would say. But really, from whichever background you come from, you can succeed in it. So that's the whole, I think, appeal of this master's is, whatever your past is, your future is now Frankfurt School. I think to do all of this in 1 year would have been, I don't want to say impossible, but it would have been incredibly difficult. And this way, we've been able to not only have a sort of more in-depth exposure and experience, but we've also had time to sort of get into the stride of things. And you do sort of learn an entirely different way of thinking, an entirely different sort of mindset. And so that space over 2 years it allows you to grow more through that. And then by the time you get to finally writing your thesis, which I'm about to do in the beginning of next year, you know more about where you stand as a person. You know more about exactly which direction you want to go in, what you want to write about. So I think it's definitely a massive benefit to have 2 years. There is the 3-month summer break, so once every year, and I think for our year it was highly encouraged that we did an internship, but I think going forward it is part of the curriculum. Sort of they require that you do an internship during the summer break. But the great thing I think about how Frankfurt School is set up is it's not a part-time master's, it's a full-time master's, but it's set up so that you can work next to it. So we only have classes on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then whoever wants to can work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next to it. And it doesn't mean that the workload is any less. It's definitely still incredibly intense. But there is sort of that opportunity to next to it get working student experience. And I know a lot of my friends are doing that. There's some working at Deloitte in working student positions. And that's the beautiful thing. When you come to them and say, I'm doing my master's at Frankfurt School, it looks really good. And yeah, people want to hire you without sounding arrogant. Yeah. So I did do it. It is similar to the GMAT. I would say it's a little bit less maths heavy than the GMAT. So it still does have a lot of that sort of calculative aspect, but then there's also a big focus on sort of the linguistic, and also there's a big focus on the like problem solving side of things, but very similar to GMAT. And then I think everybody has to go through the interview phase as well. So after you write your entry exam, you go sort of straight into then interviews. And there it's just sort of the basic questions. There's some really odd ones, like if you were a dog, what would you be? Or random ones, but it's a pretty standard entry interview. So to prepare for the Frankfurt School test, I did GMAT preparation courses. And they actually recommend that you do that. And the benefit is it doesn't cost as much as GMAT. I don't think it costs anything at all to do that test. So that's a massive benefit. And yeah, Frankfurt School also offers GMAT preparation courses that you can do before you apply, which I did as well. They're not going to only take your score into account. So they will also look at your application, your cover letter and things like that, and the interview. The interview plays a massive part of it. And that's also something great about, I don't know if it's like that for the Masters of Finance, but for the Masters in Management, it's sort of this big focus on who you are as a person, what can you bring to Frankfurt School that perhaps is different, and how can you sort of expand the Frankfurt School community. So your grade isn't everything, and I'm pretty sure I didn't do so well in the maths department. I'm almost 100% certain that I really didn't do well in the maths side of things, but my interview went really well, so yeah. I would say absolutely it has prepared me. I mean, the way, so yeah, we do the basic crash course in the beginning, but then by your second semester, you do strategic management, innovation management. Yeah, basically there's this whole sort of thing that's structured around different aspects of the business world, whether you want to go into operations or you want to go more into the marketing side of things. It's sort of that broad. And then we have in the third semester, like a focus or a concentration that you can choose. And that splits into, for our year, it was 5 different things. They've changed it now for the upcoming years. I'm not too sure exactly to what, but it's still sort of the same roughly. And I would say before coming to Frankfurt School, if you'd asked me if I would ever consider working in a big corporation, or even ever consider working in like sort of a business setting, I would have laughed at you, because yeah, that just wasn't me. I'm sort of a very creative kind of person. I'm sort of more emotive and rather than calculative, and I would never have seen myself doing that, and especially consulting. But now, I mean, I did my internship now in consulting, and it's actually sort of now where I want to go after. I want to go into sort of SME consulting, that side of things. But yeah, it's a complete 360, because before I was convinced I wanted to be a philosopher and yeah, do nothing but write amazing books and teach people, which would have been great. But as my parents said, how are you going to make money with that? But yeah, I would say it's completely turned me around, but in the best possible way. I still have the Bronwyn that existed 5 years ago inside of me, and all of her passions. But now I have it in a way, I have her in a way that means I can succeed in life. It means I can broaden my horizons and become a boss.